I am so honored to be here interviewing one of my dearest friends, Natalie MacNeil, where I just came to talk about her rituals book and to drop into a practice with her. And in the behind the scenes, I'm like, Natalie, how have you transformed so much since you started She Takes on the World to who you are today? And she's like, let's talk about it right now, spontaneously, which is the exact opposite of how you started. So share with us, because some people know you at different levels. So share with us when you started She Takes on the World, where you were in your mindset, how old were you, your life then, and then I can catch everybody up to what's going on in your life now, the real truth.
I love this. Alyssa Nobriga, host of my show and just taking over. Some of you have been with me from the beginning of this journey, which started when I was 22 years old in my little home. It was my parents' bedroom in Canada, and then I moved into my own condo. And She Takes on the World started as this little blog that I was writing while I was building my career, my business in media and production. I was in a very different time of my life. Actually, this is a great photo to
Please.
that really captures, you are going to love this and you are all going to love this as well. You know how you get Facebook memories of so this was my memory from 10 years ago and 1 year ago this week. They were shown at the same time. 10 years ago, suit. 1 year ago,
wow,
on the playa
Sex
at Burning Man. So 10 years ago and 1 year ago, and I felt at the time, because I was young, I had to be someone I wasn't, because it was the only way I was going to be successful. And I felt like I had to dress a certain way, act a certain way, be a certain way to create the success that I ended up going on to create. And She Takes on the World took on a life of its own. Some of you have been with me from the beginning, 11 years, 11 whole years, and I've decided to let She Takes on the World go for this next stage in my life and for the evolution. And when I was moving from Canada a few years ago, I knew that this is where I needed to be. When I was there, I felt like a tree planted in a small pot in a living room, and I needed to be repotted. So I came here and I felt uprooted for a little while. I needed to get my bearings. It didn't feel like home here. I felt really out of place.
And
I didn't feel as grounded.
What inspired you to come here? Because there's a lot of growing pains with moving countries and your business, and
a lot of growing pains.
Yeah.
It was a calling from deep within that I had to be here. And I always knew I would end up in California. I didn't know when in my life, but it got to a point where it was painful for me to be where I was living in Canada. It was such a strong calling of, this is where you need to be at this time in your life. And when I started going through that moving process, what I kept hearing was, your life is going to be radically different, and you are being called upon to let everything go. Everything. And I was so afraid in that moment. I remember,
who wouldn't be afraid?
I was like, I just got the paperwork back that confirming that I was moving and when my entry date into the US would be. And I was in Brazil at the time. And I remember getting that information from my lawyer, and it all happened a lot faster than I thought it would. And the move-in date was like within 6 months, and I thought it was going to be another like year and a half before I was going to have to move. And then it all just hit me, and I was in this ceremony, and what I kept getting was, everything has to be burned away. And I was like, what do you mean by everything? Like, not everything, right? And it ended up being a relationship I was in for a decade. It ended up being leaving my home, leaving like where I grew up, family, my closest friends, like everything. And the one thing I held on to was She Takes on the World, and was that brand. And I kept hearing, it's time, like everything has to go. And I was like, but not this.
Yeah.
I just want to keep one little part. Just let me keep one little part. And as I've been here for the last couple years and settled, I've still kept hearing that. You have to let it go. It's everything. And so this is the last piece, and I will have let everything from my old life burn away.
That's incredible. And really, I honor your courage.
Whew.
Because that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And
Thank you.
who you have transformed into and stepped into and let yourself continue to evolve as is so inspiring. And I'm imagining that there are people watching and they're like, I want to do that, but I'm freaked out. I'm holding on. What were the things that you did along the way or the perspectives that supported you in letting go?
I let myself be in the grief and be in the pain, because when I got here to Los Angeles, like I was in this space. This is my home here, and I didn't have the furniture or anything yet, and I got here and it was one of those moments of like, what the fuck did I just do?
Yeah.
Like, here I am alone. I don't have friends here. There was one of our mutual friends, Christine.
Yeah.
I knew that she was here, and I was like, Christine, I just moved to LA. And she's like, I just moved out of LA a week ago. And I'm like, I don't know anybody here. And I had left the relationship as well. And that was like brand new, fresh breakup. And I came here with a suitcase, and I was in the middle of this floor on a yoga mat. I didn't even have a bed yet. And I just let myself feel it all. And I spent days just curled up in fetal position on this floor, like christening this floor with tears, like puddles of tears, because I left a life behind, and it was a life that was beautiful, and I had a home, and I loved that life, and yet I was feeling that pull, and I was being called to more.
Yeah.
I was being called to express more of me. I was being called to like step up into my leadership, and this was the place that it had to happen. And so I just let myself feel all the pain. I had to shift a lot of things in my schedule. I was not in a place to be out in the world or speaking at events. Like, I needed to just let myself be in this cocoon and let myself dissolve, let the caterpillar dissolve in the cocoon, and just be in the pain and the grief of it. And it felt like a funeral for me. Like, it felt like part of me died, or like I had died. And even when I would go back to Canada, it felt like I was inside of this memory.
Yeah.
Like, I would go back and things were kind of the same, but I was starting to change so much. And it was very jarring for me. And the first couple times that I went back was just like tears and pain and being in it. So I was in the grief for quite a while. And then starting to come out of that, I met Sarah, our dear friend, Sarah Ann Stewart, who hosted this dinner. And then I ended up meeting all of you. And for me, that was the turning point. Like, I had been in the grief, and I did a lot of journaling to shift a lot of that, a lot of journaling, moving the energy, a lot of movement, a lot of yoga, a lot of giving myself permission to spend time down at the beach. Like, I couldn't focus on work. And I had so much on my plate with the move. Like, my working energy was going towards moving a company to a new country, moving me to a new country. I didn't have capacity for a lot of like growth or all the other things I wanted to do in my business. I had time to take care of me and take care of the things that needed to be done. And then we had that dinner, and that started to change everything. And when I felt called here specifically, I knew it was for people. I knew it was for community. And then everything started making sense, because I met you, I met Layla, I met some of the other women that are our dear friends and my soul family. And
that night was a pivotal moment for me as well. And but what I really hear you saying was like honoring the grief and fully going there opened you to what was next. And you didn't have a timing on it, but you just kept showing up. You moved your body, you journaled, you let yourself be where you were. And then life brought you a new tribe, a new community, and doors started opening. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. But first I had to feel all of it and unpack it too. Like, really take a look at the ways that I was showing up over the last 10 years and looking at patterns that had played out, looking at the areas of my life and my business where I wasn't being authentic, or where I was putting on a facade and showing the world what I thought the world wanted to see. And from that space, in my grief, I was able to just completely like paint over this like canvas. It was like a blank white slate after that, clean white canvas. And from that place, I actually went out and bought a canvas. And before I put furniture in here, I laid a canvas on the floor, and I just like went crazy with it, with like intentions, and I like rolled around in the paint. And that for me felt like a very cathartic experience, and also a celebration of like this next stage, like I get to be all of me, and that's going to be my contribution in the world, like when I show up fully.
And my experience of you, because I met you at that turning point.
Yeah, you met me at the turning point.
And my experience is you keep evolving. Every time I've known you for the last few years, and you continue to say yes and evolve into a more authentic, expressed, wild, radiant, but yet professional still woman. And I'm thinking of like 11 years ago. I can imagine who she was, Natalie, at that time, like very proper and perfectionist.
I wore pantsuits.
I can see it.
I was a 22-year-old in pantsuits.
I get that. and then fast forward to now, like this woman who says yes to life, who's jumping on my trampoline naked and like jumping in my pool. Like, yes, let's do life, and like let's live it fully.
Yeah.
This woman who inspires me to push my edges of living life fully. Because that's one of the gifts that I see you bring, is like you're such an adventurer to say yes to all the full range of this human experience, that it inspires me to do the same. And I'm still, and one of the takeaways as people are listening is like, what I hope one of the things that they get is when we feel that gut knowing to do something, even when the mind doesn't say there's a plan for it or it doesn't make sense, when we're courageous enough to follow our heart, even when it doesn't make sense, things line up. And when we're true to ourselves, things unfold in so many more magical ways. You are living proof of that than we could have ever planned for it to.
I never could have planned for the life that I'm living now. It really is trusting intuition, allowing intuition to eclipse what's logical. And that was a big one for me. And one of the stories.
How did you do that?
I think one of the stories that I kept telling myself was like, I can't have the level of success that I've had. I won't have the thriving business if I'm the fullest expression of myself.
Yeah.
And the opposite has been true. Business is different now, but the way that I be in my business is opening different doors than the doors that used to open.
I experienced like this surrender. So like just
so much surrender.
Just even in this, like I came over here to do a different thing with you today, and we did that. And then it was like, I was so perplexed at the fact that we hadn't scheduled or planned. I didn't even know what we were going to do. We didn't have any prep time. It's just like, let's see what unfolds. I'm like, this is not the Natalie MacNeil that started her business. And I want people to see behind the scenes, because you just show up and say yes to the magic. Yeah.
What I've been doing is, because there's still the doing part, and there's still the growing a company, and there's still the strategy and all of that, and I still have
you
that
still hire
part
a film team and write books.
And for me, it's being in a place when I'm in my power and my pleasure and my purpose and playfulness. It's like P. So many P's. When I'm in that space, I feel like I'm in that's like my purest state. Like I feel home in that place. And then all of the doing is inspired by the way of being.
Yeah.
And I think too often that's flipped around where we're like, do. Okay, maybe I have a little bit of time to just be and to hear my intuition. And Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, she said something this week, and I thought it was really beautiful. She said, as she was building Spanx, and building this like billion-dollar empire. She's one of the wealthiest self-made women in the world. She, and I say self-made, but I don't actually like that term, just to note. And she said that today, like this year, she's decided that from now on, her business needs to fit into her life. And she's been doing this challenge, like this crazy bike ride with Richard Branson in Europe. That's like, I mean, 9 hours of like straight up a mountain. And she said that from now on, it's always going to be business fitting into life. And I think that's what I had started to do. It's like my business is not who I am.
Yeah.
And like,
big.
who am I without my business? Who am I without the label of entrepreneur? And when I started asking like, who am I really?
Yeah.
Then I just drop into this space of like surrender. And from that place, the doing is inspired by
The being.
being instead of the other way
That's
around.
beautiful. What I'm getting from this is like you not identifying with a label or your business helps you embody your fullness and let the business and the personality unfold and change and evolve as it does, but there's less gripping, like I need to do it in this way to be successful, and I'm a separate person that needs to be seen as successful. It's just like, that's just a story made like a post-it on top of reality of what's happening.
And it was 6 months ago that I really stepped into trust and surrender as like, that's what I'm embodying that this year, like on a whole other level. And from that place, it actually is like self-trust too, a lot of the time. Like I can trust others, I can trust life when I'm deeply trusting myself and like who I am. And from that place, the most incredible things have unfolded. Like I am so in love and in this beautiful relationship. My business is in a place where I feel like I'm thriving and I'm so taken care of, like beyond taken care of, and I'm doing things that I love. And I handed in 2 manuscripts this year for books that just like came through me.
Yeah.
And so everything is unfolding, but it's unfolding in a way where I don't have to push like I used to. It feels like I flick the first domino and then they all just fall so beautifully and rhythmically.
Oh, I love this. I love that because this is this is feminine and masculine ways. And then it sounds like in some ways you had the masculine really developed of the doing and the focus and the pushing, which is important and part of it. But the surrender was part of your feminine, part of the flowering. And then together there's a dance that they have that is letting things unfold without the white knuckling aspect.
And I'm all about the dance right now.
Yes. I heard this physicist say, it's not just do. It's not just be. It's doobie.
Doobie doobie.
And that's the dance.
Yeah, I love that.
And like, and what one of the main things that I'm hearing you say that I'm going to try on right now is that the being is priority. So how am I being in my day, in my business? And then really focusing on that state of being and then moving forward on your goals. Is that right? Because we've got to have goals and we got to really enjoy it along the way. So
and creating space to play for me, and this was a huge inner conflict that I worked with you a lot on, this conflict of like warrior CEO Natalie at war with like playful, wild, free-spirited Natalie. And they would go to the table, they'd like go to the boardroom table, and warrior Natalie would be like, hey there, playful Natalie, you're playing way too much. You've been at the beach way too much, like down at Muscle Beach on those rings and like climbing ropes. And then playful Natalie would be like, I don't want to work today. I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
And this like rebellious spirit. And there was a lot of conflict there for a little while until I could integrate those two, and until they're like co-CEOs now. And they're very powerful
together.
They're a very powerful duo together. And for me, the play has also helped, and the space has helped. And I had so much story around like creating space in my life or taking more time off. Everything's just going to collapse around me. And it's been the complete opposite. The more space I make, the more things that I used to spend hours strategizing or sitting in front of my computer planning out, I can go and climb the ropes and be on the rings, and I'm like mid-swing onto the next ring, and it's like a light bulb moment of, I get it. There are so many lessons in play. When we return to that space of childlike wonder, it's amazing how much we just get. And when I watch kids, I see it all the time. Like I see them figure things out or like have these aha moments. And I'm like, that's me when I make space and when I play.
Yeah.
So more
you're
of
receptive
that.
for downloads rather than just
Exactly.
white knuckling or focusing down on I should know.
And then everything unfolds so much more beautifully than if I had sat down and been like, just
Yeah.
from a place of mind, like, what do I do next?
Yeah.
And what would be the best strategy here?
I love that. I remember one time when I was going through that transition of integrating my Phoebe and Monica parts for Warrior. And for me, it was like, if I didn't have the answer, I would just sit down and I'd meditate for 30 seconds to a minute and see if something came in. If it didn't, I would move on. And I feel like we need more stories of this more integrated, feminine, conscious way of leadership rather than relying on our masculine, overworking, burnt out, unhealthy parts, so that more people have examples of it can be easier and it's more fun and it's healthier and it feels better to have it in balance. So I'm so grateful for you just leading the way. I'm so grateful to witness your transformation, for your courage to let it all go, like all of it, and allow it to be what it is. And I feel so grateful to play with you in this life and to get to share you with your community. The real
everyone.
behind the scenes.
The real behind the scenes. And if you want more of this and you want to like really get to know me and to be on this journey, and it's a new journey, it's different from where I've been in the past, I invite you to stick along for the ride and let's see where it goes. And if you feel like it's time for you to get off the train and you've been in this community for a little while, that's okay too. And I send you off with so much love and so much gratitude. And I think it's the thing I want to end with is like, not that you ever need permission from anyone, but I would love to leave you with a permission slip that you don't really need of following your authentic truth no matter what. No matter if you're going to maybe not get as many likes or maybe not have as many followers, or maybe your business model does shift or your revenue shifts, like follow your own truth and be loyal to you, to your soul, no matter what, because there is no other way that is going to deliver you into a space of fulfillment and power and everything that is available to you and possible for you in this lifetime and in the work that you do, in the mission that you take on out in the world. Like, do you first and be loyal to you and your soul's work. And that's what I'm choosing now, choosing powerfully in this moment and moving forward. And I love you all so much. And I've got so much in here to share with you that has not been shared yet.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
So good,
Thank you for
sister.
interviewing me. Thank you for flowing with
So
me.
good.
That's
So
just-
fun to play in all the ways that we do. I love you.
Oh, I love you. When are we going back to Bali?